for recess, and I'll call the meeting back to order. So this evening, what we wanted to do was take a little time to go through a few things. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank Gianni Capuano, who's here recording this for us so that we can have it for posterity. And also thank some of the department heads that are here: Rich Rohn, Public Works Director, Chief Mark Brink, Chief Tracy Hope from the Fire Department, and our Administrator, Law Director, Michael McCarthy. So good evening again, and you were here. I'm Todd Hawk, one of the trustees and chairman of the board. To my left, John Pizzino, trustee and vice chairman of the board, and Jim Thomas, trustee, as well as Randy Gonzalez, the fiscal officer here in the township. What we really wanted to do was take an opportunity to provide some updates as far as what Jackson Township has done, some of the changes that we're undergoing since the initial stay-at-home order from March 22nd, as well as the subsequent order that was done on April the 6th. These changes were made with cooperation across all levels of government, ranging from the federal government, state, county, the township as well, to comply with all health orders, to balance our services, and to focus on the health and safety of not only our residents, but the employees here at Township. Jackson Township does not maintain an independent health department. We are part of the Stark County Health Department, so we rely on them in conjunction with the Ohio Health Department for all those health-related orders and things that come from that side of the order. As the new stay-at-home orders were issued, the Township Department heads were charged with coming up with non-essential and essential employees, how to get to remote working as much as possible, and to develop some alternative work schedules for those that were needed to be here on site. From the Public Works Department, which is made up of our Parks Department, our Highway, and our Central Maintenance, employees were all in an on-call status for the most part, with some alternate shifts starting on the March 24th date. Since then, on the April 7th, they have become more essential and primarily working on an adjusted shift basis to keep the current level of services there, but at the same time, spread the people out and keep the distancing in as much as we can do from that side. The parks obviously is one of the toughest ones with the stay-at-home order, because we want to get people out, we want them out doing things, exercising, being active, and it's really a big place of visibility, and with all of our desire to be outside with friends and family, but at the same time keeping those congregations small. So we want to make sure just to remind folks, unfortunately at this point, all the pavilions and all the parks are closed. We can't have the congregation of folks in those pavilions. All the courts, tennis, basketball, volleyball, are closed at this point, and a lot of it has to do with more the congregating of folks as opposed to just the play itself. So we know that there are some situations where you can play. You could shoot a basketball by yourself. You can play tennis with one person against you, so you're only two. But you're touching common equipment. You're in those situations where other folks will congregate. We're lucky enough to have some pretty significant facilities, so we can have a number of people playing those sports at the same time. So again, we just ask for your help in dealing with those situations. The playgrounds at all the parks, North, South, and Fisher Park, are closed. That was part of the direct order from the state to close those down. Obviously, they're high contact situations with a lot of kids could be in contact with each other, and a lot of issues that could happen from that. Fields, baseball, softball, soccer, all those fields, as much as we'd love to, and believe me, I would really love to see people out there playing on them. We just can't have that happen right now. It's too much, it's too congregated, it's too big of a situation to deal with at this point. But we do truly appreciate everyone's cooperation. Everyone has cooperated really well, done a lot of situations in compliance, and we just ask that you continue that. Be patient with it. It's not an easy thing. It's not easy for us. It's not something that we want to do or want to have happen. But until the stay-at-home orders are lifted or adjusted, we need to keep those things closed. One of the big things that's open, however, is the walking tracks throughout the parks, whether you're talking about the North Park track, or the Bog track and going through South Park. Those are all open, and again, though, one of the things we really want to emphasize is make sure you're keeping a track of the social distancing in those situations. You're aware of the others around you. The track is not that wide, so make sure we're giving room to folks as we're walking by, running by, jogging, doing those types of things. Just keep that spacing in mind as you're walking through there. It's very important that we do that so that we can keep it open and can keep people out doing some things that are active. Keep in mind as well, one of the things that we get a lot of comments about is with North Park and that walking track, there are no dogs permitted in that space. If you want to walk your dog in other spaces, the other parks, South Park, all other parks are open for that, but not North Park at this point. And if you want to check any of the full park regulations, they are available on the website, jacksontwp.com. The full regulations of all the parks are there for review. At this point, the workers in the parks, those folks are working to maintain the grounds as much as we can. Obviously, the grass is starting to grow, and those are things we don't want to get behind on and maintain as much as possible, as well to keep ourselves as ready as we possibly, as much as we possibly can for when those stay-at-home orders are lifted, to get people back to doing the things they want to do as we're able to do that. So we will do that. When it's available, we will be moving those things back as quickly as possible. In our highway department, as of April 7th, we are working in that department on staggered shifts, keeping folks a little bit more away from each other, keeping them out of common spaces, having them drive in separate vehicles to locations to work on things so that we continue to practice the social distancing there. We've also looked at making sure all that equipment stays clean. We have separate things done every day, checklisted out to make sure that their vehicles are cleaned and sanitized so that stays as safe as possible for them while they're here working, to make sure we can do the things we need to do. The biggest things they're working on are maintaining the integrity of our roadways and infrastructure, preparing for infrastructure maintenance that's coming up, continuing to be on call for infrastructure issues that come up. Obviously, a lot of those are weather related. We hope they're not about snow related, but when we get to those situations with the high winds and things like that we've had, there are issues with removing trees, branches, things like that from the roadway as well. I will leave Mr. Roan in charge of making sure we don't have that snow issue going forward. Central maintenance, those guys are working really hard, working separate shifts, alternating when they're in and out of the garages to make sure that all our equipment is up and running, that we have no issues, so that our police cruisers are on the road, our fire trucks are on the road, ambulances are on the road at all times to get things accomplished, as well as keeping the facilities clean, in operating order, and making sure that we can do the things to provide the service to the residents that they deserve. One of the big items that's kind of separate but falls under Public Works is the yard waste site. We know that's a really important piece to our residents. We just want to make sure everybody knows that it's still open Thursday through Monday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Mondays and Tuesdays it is closed. We do get the question quite a bit. Why is it closed? What are the days? What is going on with that? We do always have a township employee there pushing that debris up, getting it moved into piles, setting it aside so that we can continue to add to it. And those 2 days are closed as we load out to Earth and Wood as they haul it away, and they have a contract for that. So obviously the movement of those large equipment situations and large mounds of material, we want to make sure it gets done safely. So we don't want folks in there moving around that where we can have any issues or be concerned with that. There are still key cards that are required to enter. That keeps the limits on time, including those days that it's closed. It keeps non-residents out, and as well as commercial businesses, because in order to keep the service as valuable as it is up and operating, we have to be able to limit those amounts so that we can fit into the contracts we've negotiated to be able to haul those things away. Again, if you're in the site, use your key card, you're there working, observe the social distance option, stay apart from each other, and give each other some space from there. Those key cards, if you're looking for information for renewals or to purchase one if you haven't already, that information again is on the website at jacksontwp.com. As well as the full rules for the site as far as size of material, types of materials, things like that we can accept. That's all within those full rules as well for your review. Moving on to the safety forces, fire and police. They've done a tremendous job. Obviously, they have a 24/7 job to do, but they're currently working with their clerical staff on alternate schedules, working them in different days and structures so that we keep people safe and don't have everybody in there should we end up with someone that has contracted the virus. The command and supervision structures in both departments are doing the same thing, so that we always have the ability to work and have command structure in place as a backup. Obviously, the fire department, they maintain a full 24/7 operation at all 5 stations throughout the township. They're really structured on continual cleaning and sanitizing of those stations to make sure their folks stay safe. They're limiting their non-essential contact as much as possible with residents. So they're contacting folks as they get to their location to make sure whether they have an issue that's non-COVID related or COVID related, and those types of things as they go forward. They're taking precautions with PPE whenever they can, when they need to, when those situations arise. And again, that cleaning and sanitizing we can't talk to enough. The ambulances are getting that done after calls to make sure we keep them safe and out there operating, giving the services to the residents. Police, very similar situation. They're out there 24/7 on their shifts, operating throughout your neighborhoods, making sure people are safe, keeping things in line as we go, but again, limiting that unnecessary contact. We don't want them exposed to things any more than they have to be, but they're doing the job that they need to do and providing the service they can and keeping that PPE in mind with them as well. They're also assisting with some of the monitoring and compliance with the stay-at-home order, so if you see them out looking around to see if businesses are operating and what's going on, that's part of the functions they're doing. I'd also like to mention our Red Center, the Emergency Dispatch Center. They're doing a phenomenal job staying up, keeping things running, doing the things they need to do, as well as if you happen to call 911 and you call in and are asked questions. They do have a new list of COVID-19 intake questions so that they can gather some data to assist the safety forces before they get to those positions where they know ahead of time if someone is exemplifying those symptoms of COVID-19. Administration, Zoning, and Fiscal Office. Obviously, these are offices that are located here in Township Hall, and Township Hall is currently closed to the public and will remain so until those stay-at-home orders are lifted, again, to keep those folks safe and working as best as possible. The vast majority of the employees here with those three departments are working from home, remotely, but remain on call as they need it, and they are coming in at times, off hours, evenings, and different things to make sure things get accomplished, and they're pitching in to help in any way they can, and they're doing a tremendous job, and we appreciate the work they're doing. The zoning department specifically is limited and has alternate office hours as needed, and we are using some of the zoning time to monitor not only zoning issues within the township, from signage to nuisance issues and things like that, but as well to look for compliance and reporting those to the proper folks, whether it's the health department, police department, whatever that may be, for action. Administration continues to work with limited office hours and limited staff to make sure that we keep everything open and operating and running. Mr. Picaro is here most of the time working to make sure that we get this operations as much as normal as we can possibly do. Fiscal Office, Mr. Gonzalez's office, they're continually monitoring our budget. Obviously, that's a big question for a lot of folks right now, is what do the budgets look like and what's happening with revenues. Fortunately, to some degree for us as a township, we're primarily funded by voted property tax levies. So those tax levies come in from the property taxes folks pay on their property. There are minor amounts of unvoted property tax millage that comes to the general fund and some to the highway. But we are not relying on income tax or sales tax like the cities and the counties are. That's going to be a tough situation for the cities and the counties to deal with the losses of business operating. We do have a limited amount on the income side with our jet agreement with the city camp, but we're primarily on those property tax levies. Certainly, as we move forward through this, depending on how long the stay-at-home orders last and how long businesses aren't operating and folks aren't potentially working full-time, their issues could come up with property taxes with both residential and commercial, where they cannot maybe pay their property tax. That's obviously something we're monitoring closely, but something that we will continue to work with. We also have a limited amount of funds that we receive from the bed tax from the hotels, fuel taxes, vehicle license tax, those types of things that come in. Obviously, a lot of those aren't happening, so we will experience some loss of revenue in that area. But what we're pleased to have, and we're really worked hard to do, is there are capital funds that are established in all these departments to get us through, to create that rainy day fund for downturns like this. You know, when we had the last recession, we had some drawdown in minor amounts, but we were able to get through without a problem because of the capital funds and the savings that we had put in place to move forward. So with that, we'd just like to kind of give you a few other additional resources that are out there. Obviously, the big one we all hear about, use the state's website, the coronavirus.ohio.gov. That's a big place for a lot of information about things that are going on with COVID-19 for all of us. For residents that are looking in the employment area, trying to find a job, those types of things, you hear the governor and lieutenant governor talk about the Ohio Means Jobs site and looking at the sites that are up. There is also a Stark County specific site. For those that are looking for those situations, you can go to, it's jobs-board.org/Stark. And that is a collaborative piece put together with Strengthening Stark and Ohio Means Jobs, where you can go and find jobs listed just in Stark County. So that's a great place and a resource for you, that residents that are looking for job and employment. Employers, obviously we know it's tough. We have a great core of employment from the retail industry, the restaurant industry, all the way to manufacturing. All different types of industries are represented in Jackson Township. We do have a lot of small businesses located here as well. A recent opportunity that just came about, it was just open today to accept applications. It was an opportunity that was brought about by a couple pastors at some churches. We got together with some foundations here in Stark County and created a separate grant funding option for some small businesses. The website for that is faithinstark.org, and that's a grant location where small businesses with less than 10 employees or less, can go and apply for grants from $500 to $5,000 to assist with some business operation expenses. It's another opportunity, something for those folks to look at and go forward with. As employers as well, obviously there's a couple other resources that we rely on in the township. Stark Economic Development Board and the Canton Regional Chamber of Commerce. Their websites are great locations for information. Stark Economic Development Board at starkcoohio.com, and the Canton Chamber at cantonchamber.org. They both have a lot of information about COVID-19 issues, things that are available, places to go, and things to work from. So for you businesses that are here in the township, please use those resources as much as you can. If you have questions, need connections, reach out to us. We'll be happy to get you connected. So from a resident's perspective, we get the question a lot, what can I do? What can we do as a resident? What can we do to help? Obviously the biggest thing is follow the stay-at-home guidelines. If you are out, do the things you can to stay distant. When you're in a store, stay that 6 feet away from each other. If you're wearing a mask, great, but still use that 6 feet spacing. Patronize the restaurants for drive-thrus and carryouts. We're going to keep harping on that. Do those things. They're here. They're putting their employees out there to do the job, so please support them as much as you possibly can. If you do happen to be in a situation where you're sick, stay home. Follow the self-quarantining rules. If you get sick and you're that sick, contact your doctor. Use telemedicine, those types of things. But if you do need immediate attention, reach out to the emergency rooms or call 911 if it's that significant of an issue. We're here to help, and we're here to deal with that. Obviously, check on your family, friends, and neighbors within the 6-foot spacing reasons there. Make sure everybody's doing well. If you have elderly folks in your allotments, make sure you're checking on them and things are going well with them. We don't want to leave anybody out as far as checking to make sure they have everything they need. Stay healthy. Obviously, we hear that from the governor's press conferences as well. You keep that physical and mental health together. Get outside, walk, run, bike. Use your neighborhoods for that. Use the Jackson Parks and all those walking paths. Use the Stark Parks trails. Everything that's available to you, they're all there. They're great resources. This is a great community for those types of things to work in. Couple other announcements before I can wrap this up and get on with the rest of your evenings. Just a reminder, March 17th is the primary election. It is all vote by mail, so you can request ballots. Use the Stark County Board of Elections website or the Ohio Secretary of State's website. If you go to our website, there is a link to the Secretary of State's website on how to request that mail-in ballot. Those ballots must be postmarked by April 27th. So we're getting close on time and we need to move those things along. So make sure you do that, make sure your voice is heard and your vote is counted. One other important thing that's there is the 2020 census. I know I got my card right around the time the stay-at-home order started. So I did it right away and answered all the questions because I was able to do that. If you got the card in the mail, make sure you follow it. If you didn't, all you have to do, or if you don't have one, just go to the 2020census.gov. Fill out that census. That information is going to be dramatically important to us as we move forward and have those things counted as well. So those issues are really high to work with. In closing, please just continue to monitor our Facebook page and website for changes to events that we have scheduled. We're doing our best to only postpone events and try to find alternate dates for as many events as we can. We don't want to get rid of things. We want to make sure that everybody gets to enjoy them. One of the most recent ones is the fishing derby. Obviously, We don't believe the pond is going away in North Park, so we'll have it there, we'll have fish there. We can do that on a different day. We'll look to reschedule that as quickly as we can as the orders are lifted and we can get together to do that. We'd also like to thank all the essential employees that are still working. You know, frontline healthcare providers, folks in the hospitals, we really appreciate that. First responders, our police, fire, all those folks that are out there putting their lives at risk, you know, to get that, they could get that virus, to do the things to make sure we're safe and taken care of. And make sure that they're doing it to fight this virus for us, alongside us. Jackson Township is obviously an incredible community. We have a lot of great people doing a lot of great things every day, and we want to keep doing that. And we, as your elected officials, are certainly committed to working diligently and help in any way we can through this trying time. If you guys have requests, ideas, comments, anything, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always open to listen and do what we can. We do know it's a tough time, and we're all making personal sacrifices, from simple things from not so simple things, but hard things, as closing our businesses down for a time. You know, people that are workers being laid off, being furloughed, taking pay reductions to get through times. You know, for our kids being out of school, not having that same routine, not getting to be part of their extracurriculars, from sports to bands to choirs to all those types of things. It's very tough. But keep in mind, you know, we will persevere through this. We've always done it. We always will, and we'll come through it together as a community. So with that, I just thank everyone, thank all my fellow elected officials that are here, the department heads for all the work they're putting in, all the employees in the township, and the residents for all the cooperation they're giving us, and all the work they're doing to make things work as best as possible. So keep it up and stay strong and healthy. Thanks. Thank you.